Do you fantasize about robes à la française and farthingales? Do you want to start historical costuming but are completely overwhelmed about how to actually start? Have no fear, my friend, for I have 5 tips that will supply you with the resources and the confidence you need to start your historical costuming journey. Whether you're a complete novice or a seasoned sewist. Because guess what? The hardest part of historical costuming isn't corsetry, it's starting. Everything after that is just fluff under the bustle. Hey y'all, Jackie here, and I let historical costuming intimidate me for 10 years before I finally did the thing. But that doesn't have to happen to you. This is a list of all the things I wish someone had sat down and told me before I started so that I could get the confidence to begin this journey. Think of this as your historical costuming starter kit, the absolute basics to get you through the first couple of projects. Because we all want more minions. I mean, costuming friends. We have a lot to cover today, so if you would like a more in-depth video about any of these topics, please leave me a comment and let me know. And I hope you'll stick with me till the end of the video, where I'll give you a few bonus tidbits to avoid as a newbie historical costumer. And just for the record, I'm not sponsored by any of this. This is just things and resources that I have found and liked. Tip number 1, choosing a good starting era. Not every historical era is created equally. You want to start with something that's going to give you an instant win, a quickly finished project, something that you can just wear out to your first event with confidence. Not something that's going to frustrate and discourage you halfway through. But what makes a good starting era? Patterns and information should be readily available for free or at a low cost. They should require little to no underpinnings, use simple construction, and require less yardage. Think 3 to 5 yards of fabric versus other eras that require 7 to 10. The 17th century is not a beginner's best friend. It requires like 10 yards to make a gown like this. There's not a lot of information out there. There are very few commercial patterns available, and all but one of them that I've found, and I have done a lot of searching, are on my pattern no-no list at the end of this video. I'm personally hoping to change that since the 17th century is kind of my thing. If you're like me and wish there were more resources about this particular century, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I've tried a lot of eras over the past 2 years. The following 4 are the ones that I think work best for beginners. You can check out the description below for links to websites, patterns, tutorials, and videos for all of these eras. Ancient Greece. By far, the simplest and easiest era to start out with is Ancient Greece. It requires absolutely no historical underpinning, so you can wear whatever the heck you want underneath it. An ionic chiton is just 1 to 2 pieces of fabric sewed together in a tube with buttons at the top for your head and your arms. Even better, this works both for masculine and feminine impressions, with feminine impressions hitting at about floor length and the masculine impressions stopping around the knee. Depending on your height and the width of your fabric, you'll only need about 2 to 4 yards. They're also super comfortable, and I wear mine as loungewear around the house all of the time. Ancient Rome. Similar to its Greek predecessors, the clothing of ancient Rome is super simple in design and requires no historical underpinnings to slog away at before you start the fun stuff. A feminine stola is constructed similarly to a chiton, only the seams are in the center front and the center back instead of the sides. A masculine tunica is just like a chiton, only it doesn't have any buttons. As an added bonus, footwear is super easy for both of these eras. All you need to do is schlep on a pair of sandals. I'm sure you could do more research into what was historically accurate and what was not, but again, we're just doing the absolute basics here. As an added bonus, your stola will substitute as a sundress during the summer. The medieval era. The medieval era spans a huge amount of time, and I'm only gracing the surface here, but it's a great era to start out with because there's so much information that is easily accessible. For the most part, underpinnings only consist of a smock for both masculine and feminine impressions, as kirtles and coat hardies can often be made self-supporting for feminine bodies. Medieval clothing is made from basic rectangles and triangles, and is super easy to construct. While some of the overgowns can take a crap ton of fabric, your basic kirtle or tunic is only going to run you about 3 to 5 yards, and that's enough to wear to an event, especially when you're first starting out. As an added bonus, this is a very popular era, and it's easy to find groups and events to wear your new historical clothing to. Unlike the 17th century. Regency. If you're doing a feminine impression, the Regency era is also a great place to start. As far as masculine is concerned, I haven't actually attempted it myself, but I don't think it's as easy as the feminine impressions because it requires quite a bit of tailoring. Regency gowns only use about 5 yards of fabric. Construction is fairly straightforward, and there are a lot of good patterns out there. Underpinnings do get a little more complicated, requiring a shift, a pair of stays, and an underpetticoat, but in a pinch, you could substitute a well-fitting push-up bra if you're not ready to take on the corsetry or can't afford to buy one. Like the medieval era, Regency is astronomically popular, and it's great for every historical costumer to have at least one Regency piece in their historical wardrobe because there are a ton of events to wear Regency garb to. And remember, this is just your first project. You don't have to stay in these eras forever. Just utilize them to wet your feet. However, if you refuse to do anything but say late Victorian, in that case, start small. Do some easy basics first. I cannot stress enough what wonders instant gratification does to your motivation and confidence. Tip number 2, supplies and resources to actually make the thing. One of the hardest things for yours truly back in 2008 when I was wanting to start this was having access to resources. There was very little available at the time, and what was, I had no idea how to access. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore, which is a good thing. This is by no means a comprehensive list. This is just the best of the best for the beginners. An exhaustive compilation of patterns, fabric websites, and ready to wear has already been done for you by Noelle of Costuming Drama. I've linked to her excellent playlist in the description below, and you can check that out if you'd like after you finish this video. There are 2 pattern companies I recommend for the beginning costumer. The first is Laughing Moon Mercantile. They have great patterns ranging from the late 18th century up through the vintage era. Their patterns are fairly size inclusive, and of all of the pattern companies I've tried, these fit my particular body type the best straight off of the page. Their patterns come together easily, and their instructions are easy to follow and include both modern and historical techniques to make them. In addition, their prices are extremely reasonable, especially considering that each pattern I've done has given a slew of different bodice and sleeve options, making this a great one-style-fits-all kind of deal. The other pattern company I recommend is Black Snail Patterns. These patterns range from the late 18th century up through the Edwardian era, and they're available in both English and German. Similar to Laughing Moon, they're fairly size inclusive and their instructions are pretty easy to follow, although I do find some occasional quirks, I think thanks to the fact that they're translated into English from the original German. They also include both historical and modern techniques, which I love. And you can visit their blog for more in-depth explanation of some of their videos, which I think is a great idea. They're also very reasonably priced, and I've been happy with all of the patterns I've made from them. If you're looking for an earlier period, the Medieval Tailor's Assistant is the exhaustive anthology of all things medieval for masculine, feminine, and child impressions, with easy to follow drafting instructions. And if you specifically want to make a kirtle, Le Cotte Simple is free and very easy to follow. Can't beat that. Honorable mention goes to the American Duchess Guide to 18th Century Dressmaking. If you want to do 18th century and have a fitting buddy, that's important for this. It's literally the only thing you'll ever have to buy. And the American Duchess Guide to 18th Century Beauty is pure gold. It gives you all the beauty recipes, all of the hairstyling, how to make the hair cushions, and a ton of accessories. They're also both reasonably priced. For supplies and fabric, Burnley and Trowbridge is the gold standard. Their prices are reasonable, they're informative about the eras for which all of their fabric is appropriate for, and the quality is excellent. They also have all the stuff you need to start hand sewing if you need to buy supplies for that. Renaissance Fabrics is also excellent, but they tend to be a little bit pricier. Fabricsstore.com is your best friend. Sign up for their newsletter, and when you get the 38% off linen sale, go buy yourself a hunk of it for all of the undergarments, accessories, and linings that you're about to make. Also make sure you enter the code I love linen in to get an additional 7% off. How to research. I'm still learning this skill. It's not my strong suit, but this is the best advice that I have so far for beginners. There are two basic ways. Archive.com has all sorts of literature available that's in the public domain. The second best place is, believe it or not, Wikipedia. Wait, what? Hear me out. Search for whatever it is that you want on that website. Ignore the article and scroll all the way down to the bottom where all of the resources have been listed. Click on those links, my friends, read the primary sources, and go down the rabbit hole of your dreams. Tip number 3, start small and give yourself some grace. The best thing you can do for yourself is not to start with your dream project. You will make mistakes, especially in the initial few costumes. Everyone does.
Let me say that again.
Everyone makes mistakes in the beginning. Screw that, everyone makes a mistake in every single costume they make, even the experts. I guarantee that in a month, 6 months, a year from now, you're gonna look back on the first couple of things you made and see all of the flaws. That's why you wanna wait a little bit before you do your big passion project. Plus, if you're doing something less dear, there's less at stake and you won't be so hard on yourself if you get stuck or if you mess up. In the same vein, don't use the expensive fabrics in your first few makes. Instead, use stuff you've got in your stash, raid the thrift store, or in a pinch, just use a couple of those old bed sheets you've got stashed in the linen closet. In fact, I know a few seriously talented makers who only use thrifted or recycled materials. It's a thing, it's cool, and it's easier on your bank account. And don't let anyone tell you you have to use the right fabrics to do historical costuming. Use what you can afford. Use stuff that you won't feel bad about if you make a mistake. Don't let anyone give you a hard time about making your gown out of polyester satin. Seriously, anyone who does that is a gatekeeper, which we'll discuss further at the end of the video. Me personally, I never use good fabric the first time I do anything. I've used polyester for some of my favorite makes, including the one I'm wearing right now. And y'all, I walked into a room of about 9 seasoned historical costumers when this mantua was just barely pinned together, and every single one of them stopped what they were doing, oohed and awed, and told me how gorgeous it was. 100% polyester, yo. Is polyester fun to work with? Not usually. Is it comfortable? No, it's hot. Is using natural fibers better? Yeah. But all of them except for cotton can be prohibitively expensive. So get thrifty, especially for your first few makes. There's only one rule you need to follow with fabric, and that is to avoid fabrics with stretch. That's important. If it doesn't stretch, it's fair game. The second rule you should follow is that the closer to your skin a garment is, the more important it is that it be natural fibers. So if you can only afford to make your shift or chemise out of natural fibers, then that's better than nothing. If you're on a tight budget, most box stores sell muslin for $2 to $3 a yard, and you can use that to make your chemise or even your first corset or stays. You'll be way more comfortable in that than polyester. But again, if all you can afford is the poly, then use the poly. It's totally acceptable. Also, always do a mock-up, especially when you're starting out. It's 1000% worth the time, and I'm a person who has no time. Tip number 4, historical accuracy is a fallacy. Yep. It's impossible to be historically accurate because fabrics aren't made the same way they were even 50 years ago. Therefore, don't terrify yourself into inaction because you're not sure you have the skills to do it historically accurately. Hand sewn, machine sewn, or hybrid are all totally acceptable ways to make your costume. I've done all 3. I prefer the hybrid method where I machine sew all of the seams that are going to be hidden and then hand sew anything that will be visible from the outside of the garment. There are also some things that are just easier to do by hand, like the arm sewing, but do whatever is easiest for you. If you're a complete beginner to sewing, I do suggest learning hand sewing first, for one very specific reason, and that is the barrier to entry is a lot lower. All you need are some needles, some thread, and a thimble to get started. Even if you buy like the fancy ones from B&T, you're only going to be out about 10 bucks, whereas a machine can get very expensive. In addition, hand sewing is actually quite simple. Burnley and Trowbridge has a lot of very comprehensive tutorials on all of the historical hand sewing techniques on their YouTube channel. In addition, Bernadette Banner even has a whole book about it. Now, I don't own this book, so I can't super vouch for it, but it's Bernadette. I'm guessing it's legit. And if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, right, like I'm ever gonna hand sew an entire garment, that would take forever. That's okay, just machine sew it. Although I was that person for a really long time, and now I'm totally in for the hand sewing. For the most part. Now, I don't recommend for the beginning sewists to go out and buy the cheapest machine that you can find at your local box store. You get what you pay for with these things, and those cheap ones just don't have the motors to do what you need them to do. It's not worth the frustration. Trust me. Instead, if you're on a budget, I recommend pulling your mom's old sewing machine out of the attic or raiding thrift stores for older models. Look for things that were made from about the 1980s and earlier. Those things are powerhouses. They were made to last and will do you so much more justice than the cheap plastic thing that you get at Walmart. And even if they require a little TLC up front, there are plenty of resources out there, especially on YouTube, to help you fix them up properly. Tip number 5, utilize your community. You've taken the time to do the thing. Now show it off. Go outside, take some pictures, post them on Instagram. There are so many people out there that love the same things that you do. They can't wait to see the awesome things that you've made. Go online and find your local costuming groups.
If you're into any of the eras prior to the year 1600,
the SCA, or Society for Creative Anachronism, is the place to be. Go check out their website and find your local group. Now, you may not find a historical costuming group directly in your specific city, but there should be something within driving distance. Me, I've got to drive north a couple of hours to get to my closest historical costuming group, but even just attending one event with that group, I made so many new friends. This community is here to support you. There are a ton of content creators out there, like me, who are trying to bring you into this sphere. There are a ton of videos out there explaining everything from the very basics to the most complicated techniques. Visit your favorite costumers regularly. Like, subscribe, and comment on their videos. Tag us when you've made something that we've demoed. We love that. This tells us we're making something worthwhile and means that we're more likely to do content like that in the future. And if you have a question on something that anybody has done, ask in the comments. More than likely, they'll reply to you with an answer. If you're stuck on a step on whatever it is that you're making, go out to social media and post your question there. People love to help. Now, you always want to take what they say with a grain of salt, but this can be a great resource, especially if you're feeling discouraged about what you're doing. One of the best things to do if you're starting something completely unfamiliar is to join a sew-along. This is a great way to meet people with the same interests as you, and a great way to get help because everyone's working on the same thing. If you're on Instagram, Emily from our Shield Maiden does frequent sew-alongs throughout the year, and she really focuses on easily accessible, beginner-friendly projects. I feel like Instagram is the best place to find out about these sew-alongs, but also checking the community tab here on YouTube is a good practice. Those are the 5 things I wish I'd known when I was starting my historical costuming journey. I hope they help you do the thing. You can do it. It's not hard, I promise. The possibilities are endless. All you have to do is pick up your thread and start. And since you've made it this far, here are a few things you should stay away from as a beginner. Firstly, gatekeepers. Anyone who tells you that people like you didn't exist in a time period, those who tell you you can't attend an event if your costume isn't perfectly historically accurate, those who sniff at your polyester gown, are all gatekeepers. We do not like gatekeepers. Costuming is for everyone, no matter your situation in life, the color of your skin, your social economic background, gender, or abilities. Anyone who tells you differently is a jerk, and you can tell them that Jackie from Fantastical Follies said to take their gatekeeping and shove it up their tight little asshole. Quote me. Fabric no-nos. Here's some fabrics that you should stay away from as a beginner. Knits. Anything stretch has no business in historical costuming. Your garment will warp and it won't look good. And honestly, knits are difficult to work with if you're not experienced. Chiffon, polychiffon, and super silky, flowy fabrics in general. They're gorgeous, but they move if you sneeze. work when you cut them, and will make you want to cry. If you want to hear a horror story about poly chiffon, ask me about the dance skirts in the comments below. Pattern no-nos. One-size patterns or patterns that require scaling up, like patterns of fashion. This book, do you see it? This is what kept me from historical costuming for 10 years. Scaling up and then grading a pattern to fit your particular body is not something you should tackle as a beginner. It will overwhelm you so fast. The Patterns of Fashion books are great resources and I've used them several times successfully, but wait until you have at least some knowledge of historical techniques and fitting and how things are constructed, because those books won't give you any of the information that you need. Reconstructing history. Don't make the mistake that I did. These patterns don't scale up well for larger bodies, and their instructions assume that you already know what you're doing. They can often be confusing, and sometimes even leave out steps completely, because they assume you know to do it without being told. Plenty of people like these patterns, but I haven't had any luck with the ones I've done, so I cannot recommend them. You now hopefully have all the things that you need to start. Go forth, my friend, and create. And know you can always come back here and ask if you have any questions. If you'd like to support my channel, I have a Ko-fi account where you can go and buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below. Every little bit goes toward helping me make content like this. If you can't donate, that's totally fine. You can like, subscribe, or comment below. If you're new here, introduce yourself and say hi. If you're not new, I'd love to hear what you've been up to recently, or if you have any other tips for newbie costumers. There goes my light. Thanks so much for being here, y'all. I appreciate you so much. I'll catch you in my next video. And if you'd like more great content like this, you can check out this playlist here, which is all of my beginner-friendly content in one handy place. Fart. Dude, the fart yards. This chair sucks. I'm done! Y'all, I had to do that 6 times. Whew!